Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of B.E.P Talks, where we speak very candidly, woman to woman, women from all around the world sharing stories about their beliefs, experiences, and passions. That's what B.E.P Talks is all about. Today is certainly no exception. We have an extraordinary guest today, and speaking about what I'm going to classify from my perspective about a delicate experience, if you will, and you'll hear about it. Our guest today is Debby Harrison. Debby is an author, a speaker. She is a mentor to others who, like herself, have experienced very traumatic challenges in life. And she spends her time and energy now, based on her experience, helping others find their way, travel their own journey toward healing, regaining self-empowerment, and rising above what, for some at some times, must feel like insurmountable challenges. Debby, as I said, is a best-selling author. The name of her book is Triumph Over Terror: One Woman's Journey Through Rape. I think that gives you a sense of where this conversation will be going, and the power that Debby has to be speaking, not textbook, but through experience, and how she has traveled her own journey and now helps others find their way safely through theirs. Again, best-selling author, speaker, survivor. Here is Debby Harrison.
Thank you. Today, I want to show you my heart. I remember that I was 18 years old. I remember that it was a hot summer night, but I still managed to fall into blissful sleep. I awoke with a hand over my mouth and a knife at my throat. I felt terror. I screamed. I remember that I had been raped. Afterwards, I felt shock and numbness. Like a sleepwalker, I went through the motions of my life. Shock is a good thing after a trauma, but mine lasted way too long. I couldn't focus. I couldn't follow a path. Then I felt grief. Grief for what had been lost. Grief for what had been done to me. And grief for how it affected others around me. It took me a long time to overcome that. Years. I had to change my way of thinking. I had to accept my life would never be the same. I had to deal with severe depression. Eventually, I found my way back to the land of the living. I was able to find that my life was worth living and that it could be full. I was able to find a sense of happiness. I tell you this story because I was able to take who I was before the rape and who I was after the rape and combine them into who I am now. A strong woman, someone who has triumphed over terror, someone like you. Thank you.
Rarely does Beth Johnston ever say, "I'm speechless. I have no words." That has very rarely happened to me in my life, but you take my breath away. And on that point, Debby, the details that you recall, and this was many, many years ago,
Yes.
but the explicit details that you recall about a hot night, a knife at your throat, a hand over your mouth. And if I heard correctly, you said you remembered having been raped.
Yes.
Is that, well, first of all, I'm so sorry we're sharing this story today, and I appreciate that we're sharing this story today, and we'll get into that a little bit more.
If it helps someone, I'm happy to share it.
Oh, well, God bless you. And clearly it's helping others. And it doesn't have to be about rape. It can be
No.
about any kind of trauma, as we're
Yeah.
talking about. Is it common, and I don't mean to sound like I'm, cross-examining you, but
Mhm.
over all these years, have you found that it's common to remember having been raped in the past tense, meaning you don't remember it in the moment?
Yes, my when I woke up, I my body just went right into shock. And shock is actually a good thing because it helps you kind of remove yourself from what's happening. And I remember what I told the police and others, but it's not like after I went into shock, it's not like I was there in the moment, right? I remember what happened. I remember telling the police about it. But some of the finer details may have been lost because I was just in shock.
Of
And I
course,
think
of
that that
course.
happens to a lot of people. I don't think it happens to everyone, but I sort of am thankful that it did happen to me. I was able to kind of go through my life for a few days, a few weeks, being in that state and kind of dealing with what I had to deal with afterwards.
I appreciate this because, well, the body and the mind, God created us so magnificently that
Yes,
He's given us what we need to protect ourselves.
exactly.
He's given us what we need to be able to take that next breath.
Exactly.
And the hardest step, as we say in many cases, is the first step.
Yeah.
So you caught your breath, and
Yes.
then you became aware of, and you went through like a very normal, correct me if I'm wrong at all, I don't mean to be assumptive, but that you were mourning your past self. Like you went through
Yes.
stages of anger and grief and acceptance. And those are the stages, plus some others, that we go through when we lose a loved one.
Yes.
Did you feel like you had lost yourself?
I did, and it did take me a very long time to find myself again. In the book, I do discuss 4 stages of grief after trauma from Bowlby and Parks. And I did recognize myself in every one of those. I recognized myself in most of the symptoms they listed. And, each person is going to be unique. Each person is going to take their amount of time to go through each stage. And each of our stories is different. I was assaulted by a stranger who was never found and never charged or convicted. Others have family members, others, people that they know, acquaintances.
Yes.
So our
Yes.
experiences are going to be slightly different. But I believe that it helped me to recognize number one, that I was not alone. And number
Yes.
two, that there were other people out there like me. And number two, what I stress continually is that it is not your fault. You always have the right to say no.
You weren't given the opportunity to say no.
Exactly. I wasn't, but even so, I think that it was pretty clear to the assailant that I was not a willing participant, and
I get
the
you. I
assailant
get
went
you.
on. In my
Yeah.
opinion, rape is not a crime of sex. I believe
No.
it's a crime of power because
And
unfortunately in
and yeah.
America, people can go find sex just about anywhere, but it is a power. Waking up with his hand over my mouth and a knife at my throat, he was in
Mm.
control and threatening my life. I mean, he was in control. And all I could do was find a quiet place in my mind to kind of remove myself from what was happening.
To survive. To survive.
Exactly.
What, that's in the moment, unconsciously perhaps,
Exactly.
what you knew was going to be inevitable. How
Yes.
do you know it was a stranger?
I did not when he came into my house, he found an apron on my table that was from laundry, tied it around his face, so I only saw like his eyes, and he was actually in silhouette. I did not recognize his voice. There was no one that I knew in my life that would do this. The police in their investigation never found anyone that they could tie to this crime. It actually was my knife from my kitchen, too. They found the apron and the knife down the street in a trash can, but were not able to link it to anyone. So I did not recognize the voice, and there seemed to be no connection to me.
How long did an active investigation go on?
At that time in the state of Texas, the statute of limitations for rape was 3 years.
Hmm.
I'm happy to say now it's lifetime. Exactly.
And to Texas, is that true across the whole country?
I don't know, actually. To tell you the truth, I have not investigated the laws in all the states. And of course, they've changed over time. When this
Sure.
occurred to me, it was over 45 years ago.
Hmm.
And I, checked recently to see if it was still 3 years, and they said no, it had been changed to lifetime,
So
for
are
which
you
I'm grateful.
grandfathered? Yes. Are you grandfathered into that? Is this
No,
considered a cold case or
no.
is it a closed case?
They told me that after 3 years, they would throw out all the evidence, and he could walk up and say it was him, and nothing could be done after 3 years,
Wow.
which is a little scary, putting myself out
Well,
there.
that's more than a little scary. That's
It is.
way more than a little scary. So, through your own experience, and I love, coaching experientially because there's so much validity in it, beliefs, experience, passions. That's what B.E.P Talks is all about. How have you been able to help other people to overcome not just rape, but trauma in their lives? What's your secret for helping them?
I think the biggest thing for me is that I can say to them, I understand, I've been there. When
Yeah.
it happened to me, there really were not a lot of resources available like there are now. There were not a lot of people that I could talk to about this because your family and friends, to tell you the truth, they don't really want to hear about it. It's a little
No,
scary.
no, and
It's
yeah,
not
yeah, and I'm
fun.
sure they don't want to put you through it. So
Exactly.
yes, 45 years ago, you said, um, all the DNA testing that is available today, all the
Right.
technology, um, I watch a lot of crime TV kind of stuff because I am really fascinated by it.
I am
And
too.
one of the things that we always hear is that it's not your fault.
Exactly.
Do Vic,
Exactly. I mean, you need to know that you have the right to say no at any moment. And if you make that clear by your actions, that's still a no. And that you are not alone. I mean, this happens to a lot of women, unfortunately, and men
yes,
and children and
yes,
older
yes,
people. It's
yes.
kind of everybody everywhere has become victims. They did have a sample of his DNA in the records, but of course, we weren't at the point where we could test it at that time. Now, if it happened today, that would be a different story.
Exactly. We hear stories of people, who have been incarcerated for decades, who now
Exactly.
through DNA testing have been found wonderfully so to not be guilty, and yet how tragic that they were ever found guilty.
Absolutely.
The challenge that, and I don't like the word victim
Mhm.
because as women, we want to feel in control. We want to feel the power over our own decision making, our own bodies, etc. And yet, there are moments, and rape is, I guess, the quintessential example of being victimized. It
Yes.
didn't make you, you were victimized. It was done to you.
Right.
How how does one, through any kind of major trauma in their life, get over this sense of being a victim?
I'm not sure if you could totally get over that, I have to
Mm.
say. Now,
Oh,
I was diagnosed with PTSD because of this, but there is a subcategory now called RTS, rape trauma syndrome. And I find for a long time, I didn't want to be by myself. I was afraid of the darkness because I equated this to the darkness, the night.
Sure.
I wanted to sleep with the light on. The first few nights I slept right in the middle of my parents' bed. That was, I'm sure, not fun for them, but it was scary. And what's
Sure.
happened is over time, I've gotten a little stronger, a little better. I still have my family and friends around me supporting me. And I am better. I can sleep in the dark if I need to. But there are some things that are involuntary. The knife across my throat and the hand on my mouth. If
Mm.
you touch this area, my pulse rate will shoot to the ceiling. And
Oh,
even
exactly.
doctors that are just checking, right? So it's kind of that is a response I cannot control. I cannot do anything about it.
And
So
it's something I guess you have to accept, and that's very, I'm
exactly.
going to tell you, I think that's very normal.
I think so too. And I'm not sure you get over all of it. What I would hope for people is that they could kind of work through the stages knowing that, okay, where I'm at, this is kind of a normal thing. Where she was, she did this, she got on through the stages and was able to get on with her life. And that's what I would hope for people.
For people, for anybody.
Exactly.
And we hear the saying, we all go through losses, which are very traumatic and life changing, and that time heals all things. For me, I'm going to say that I don't know that time heals per
Right.
se. I think it helps you get used to the new situation. And I'm not talking in my case, thank God, by rape at all. But
Right.
in any kind of loss like that, I say, you really don't get over it. You get used to it.
Exactly. And it's interesting that as I was writing this book, I had written a rough draft years ago, but then I finalized it last year. As I was writing this book, I actually had a little more trouble sleeping at night because
Oh,
all these thoughts were coming back to
sure.
me, right? I actually started thinking, wow, I was 18 when that happened. That totally changed my life. I mean, that is a real big point of departure. And
Yes.
so, yeah, just writing all these down again became a touchstone that I had to kind of think about it, experience it, and then go ahead and move back into my life.
It was a little cathartic too, that it was a little therapeutic for you. You were reliving it, but you
Yeah,
have to say, and I encourage you to say, but here I am. Here I
yeah.
am. And I'm still me, and I'm able, through terrible experiences, be of great value to other people. I want to ask you this. You said it was a stranger. All you saw were eyes, and there was nothing about the voice that was recognizable.
Mhm.
Am I wrong in believing that being raped by a stranger versus someone that you can identify, because then you know that person will face justice and whatever, is having been raped by a stranger, I don't want to say more traumatic, but in the sense that everybody that you see on the street could
Exactly.
be that person.
Exactly. I have to share this part. My uncles and some of the men in my family just wanted to take to the streets with shotguns. And I
Yes,
thought to myself, because they didn't know how to help me. That was
of
really the
course.
key. They didn't know how to help me. They knew what happened, of course. But I remember thinking, who are you going to go after? I mean, we have no clue who this
Yeah,
is. And I was convinced to go to the police originally so that this person would not do this to someone else. So I do have this thought in the back of my mind that I hope that he never did this to anyone
of
else.
course. Yeah, yeah,
Although not captured on my case, I'm just hoping that he did not go on and do that again. But
right.
yes, people react very differently. I remember my uncles feeling that way, and I just thought there's really nothing you can do right now to help.
No, no. Except for you to know that they were there and totally in support of you.
I've
In
read
the
some
book,
stories about victims who knew their assailants, and I'm not sure if that's better because they felt so betrayed, such a loss of trust. I had a loss of trust in the world, kind of in general, but
yeah,
some of the stories that I've heard or read were this loss of family, of of friends, more of a loss of trust, I think, than I kind of experienced when I went through it in general. So I'm not sure that one is easier to deal with than
Because, yeah,
another.
yeah, that's true. I was just wondering how. So in your book, Triumph Over Terror, you say you talk about the stages of grief. Walk
Yes.
us through that a little bit. Walk us through the typical stages of grief.
So Bowlby and Parks had the model that I thought fit the best, and it really was trauma, the stages of trauma, and you
Mm-hmm.
kind of go through this shock and numbness stage, and then you go through a stage where you have this grief, this anger, these all these emotions coming up. Um, the next stage, the third stage, is kind of this just disorganization. This has happened to me. What am I going to do? How am I going to deal with this? And then the final stage is this reorganization. I can get my life back on track. I can not forget it, probably, but put it behind me and become a stronger person for it. I believe that things that have happened in my life, whether they were my own doing or not, have made me stronger if I use them that way. So I really think that that's part of what is so good in the book. Also, what is good in the book is that there are other stories there of people that were in different situations, um, assault by a friend or assault by a family member. And so there are different situations there
Yeah.
too that can
None of
help
them
with
are
that.
good. I mean, let's face it, none of them are good. You wouldn't want any
No,
of them. But,
no.
not to trivialize in any way, but you've heard the expression, take your mess and make it your message kind of
Yes,
a thing. And again, I don't mean to trivialize,
no,
um,
I understand.
but to take your own experience and find self-empowerment in it
Yes,
that helps you then empower others. And I'm
well,
imagining
mhm,
not just women, it's anybody who's gone
right,
through a traumatic. I imagine, you said that there's something now called rape trauma syndrome. Of course, we've all heard of, post traumatic stress disorder with,
yes,
members of the military of what they've gone
exactly.
through that that they relive for years and it never really, I guess it becomes part of you
Right.
and you want it to become as self-empowering for yourself as you can. You know what I'm
Yes, I
thinking
want to
is,
tell you that 9 out of every 10 victims of rape are women. So, I mean, that's quite a statistic. And the current
yeah,
statistics state that 1 in 5 women will be a victim of rape or attempted rape in her lifetime. And half of these women, victims of rape, reported being raped by an intimate partner, and 41% by an acquaintance. So, I
those
mean,
are,
these are
yeah,
scary statistics.
they're
They
very
really are.
scary statistics.
They
And
are.
I remember that there was debate, not, well, years ago, but, not like decades ago, where is it possible for a husband to rape his wife? And there was great discussion about that, is that it's your wife. You can't rape your wife, but it was legally determined that yes, you can, because you
Absolutely.
said at any given point, no is no, no matter
Exactly.
who no matter
Assailant.
the circumstance or the relationship, no is
Exactly.
no under any circumstance. Those are really scary statistics. I'm
Yeah.
going to guess that they're not wholly accurate based on you're saying, did you say 9 out of 10 rape victims are women?
Yes, and the reason that when I mention these statistics, I always want to point out that there are a lot of rapes that are not reported.
That was my point. And
Exactly.
men tend not to report it
Exactly.
because there's more, oh, I wanted to choose words wisely, but I would think there's more
There's more of a
humiliation,
stigma. There's more of a stigma
stigma
around that.
for a
You know,
man.
you're a man, how could that happen?
But
But
we
it
hear it,
happens.
and we hear it
Yeah.
among children. You know,
And
um,
older people in their homes, you know? I mean, there's not an age limit on this. There's not a place limit on this. There's not a time on this. I mean, it really is kind of across the boards in terms of
sure.
victims of this type of assault.
And I think there's the common thread might be that in the moment, or right preceding that moment, there is a vulnerability of one of the parties, so that the party who is looking to dominate, because it's not about sex, the party who's looking to dominate and gain power, you can kind of say, well, that's why a man would rape a child or a young man would rape an older woman, because there is that vulnerability. And it's, you cringe no matter what it is, but it's not about sex at all. It's
Absolutely.
just not. It's just not. You know,
Absolutely.
Debbie, through the years, we've heard that a lot of people, well, you don't hear it so often, but we've heard some situations where, again, I'll use the word victim,
Mhm.
someone who was taken advantage of in one way or the other,
Mhm.
finds peace in forgiving
Yes.
their attacker.
Yes.
What are your feelings about that?
I actually did that. Later, several years later, I became a police officer. And in my interview to become a police officer, it was the same department where it was reported. And they said to me, "Are you sure you're not doing this just to go, take vengeance on all rapists?" I said to them, "No. And in fact, I've forgiven him." They did not understand that. This was a panel of grown men who were police officers, and they did not understand that. But that was part of what I had to do to let it go. And it's part of what the Bible tells me to do. If
Yeah.
I'm going to be forgiven, I have to forgive others. Now, that was not right after it happened.
Oh,
I mean,
God, no, no,
that
no.
takes a little time to wrap your head around it.
Absolutely.
But absolutely, I feel like I've forgiven him for this, but I'm not going to let maybe, I don't know, 20 minutes of my life, maybe 30, I'm not going to let that keep me down. And I'm not going to let that be something that I cannot turn around and use for good. As we're told in the Bible, to use your circumstances to help others, to comfort others. The comfort you get from God, you use it to comfort others.
God. Debbie,
It's
30
taking me,
minutes, you said,
unfortunately, a very long time to get this book written and out there, but this is the reason I wanted to do it.
and that's so understandable because as you said, it's like picking a scab. You're opening up an old wound and you bleed a little bit again, and then you have to heal a little bit, and then you pick that scab again.
Yeah.
And that's so normal. I hope that you got so much benefit for you in the process of writing that book. Debbie, you became a police officer. You go, girl.
Oh, I've done a lot of crazy things in my life. I did enjoy that job, but they didn't really want women in their sandbox, shall we say. So,
Debbie, I took the first test offered to women for the police department in New York City.
oh, wow. Awesome. You go.
You go. And my dad had been a police officer many, many years before, and then became a business person. And I mean, you might have a lot of other in your family members who are, police officers, there are firefighter families, there's military families. We were a law enforcement family. And it was a long time ago during the Son of Sam era in New York City. And when the police department called me, my dad was like, "You really don't want to do that, do you?" And I did. But I
Yeah.
knew my dad did not want me to do that. And my
Yes.
dad worked, undercover all the time. So it was a very different experience that he had. But for the first group of women going in that era,
Yes.
and can I tell you honestly, my hand to God, I wonder, because I'd be retired now, I
Uh-huh.
wonder, what did I miss?
Right.
What, how may I have been able to help?
And
Uh,
that's it exactly. I wanted to do it because I wanted to help. And there are things you don't want to see that you see, but there are also things that you can really make a difference in somebody's life. You can really help them. And that made it totally
yes,
worthwhile.
yes. You
Worthwhile.
know what? I'm going to bet that had that not those, and you said 30 minutes, which I can't imagine, like 30 minutes. That's a long time. But I still have to feel in my heart that you are who you are. And regardless of those 30 minutes or whatever it was, that you still have it in you that you wanted to help other people in some way. So you took that experience and that became your pathway.
Yes, I think so. I just really the main point of writing the book was if it helps even one person, then it's done its job. Because there really wasn't anyone to help me. I
Mm.
want them to have someone to help them.
There was no one to help you? Weren't there counselors and social
There
workers and
Not that I was aware of or that I was referred to. Years later, I went to a psychologist who said, "There's nothing wrong with you." Another one that said, "Yes, you have PTSD." But there are so many resources out there now where people
yes.
can call or go on websites, and I've made a big list of that on the website and in the book. It's right in the front of the book. It's right there on
And
the
you're one
website.
of those people. You're one of
Yeah,
those resources. So tell us how people can be in touch with you and find out, of course, buy the book, Triumph Over Terror. Is it available on Amazon?
it is. It is.
Buy the book, Triumph Over Terror.
It's
And how can,
available on Kindle and ebook, and of course, soft cover in your hands. They can just go to my website, which is www.debbyharrison, Debbie with a Y.com. And there are a couple of pages there. If you go to the second page, Triumph Over Terror, then the resources are at the bottom there. And there are workbook pages that are in the book. They're also free on the website if they would like to work through their own. I tried to come up with some questions that I thought would help them kind of work through their own event, whatever it was. And they're also, of course, included in the book.
what is the most common question that people ask you when they've learned about your story?
Oh, that's a good question. Usually, I have people that want to share their story with me, and I am perfectly willing to listen. They're like, oh, here's someone that might understand this.
Yes,
And I'm
yes.
perfectly willing to do that. I know right after it happened, someone said to me, you will be shocked at this. Someone said to me, well, you're lucky he didn't hurt you. Okay, I gotta say, I did not feel lucky at the time. Okay,
You certainly
um,
were hurt. You certainly were
no,
hurt. Okay, she means, or whoever
I
that
think
was,
physical
um,
injury or anything, any unusual act, and I understood what they meant, but I have to say that is not what you want to say to victims. That is not
no,
what you want to say to their friends and family. And part of the book is geared to friends and family so that they can help their own friend or family member who's gone through this kind of get a little bit more of an insight as to what might be going on in their heart, in their mind.
yeah. Many, many years ago, I had a very close acquaintance, a family friend who was raped.
Mhm.
And we were all so traumatized by it. And there are no words. And I found that the best thing that we could do for her, and hope what we did do for her, was just to be physically present.
Absolutely.
And sometimes it's like going to a wake and you
Mhm.
walk up to the widow. What do you say? You
Exactly.
know, it's and I've spoken about this before. I said sometimes your presence
Mhm.
is your present, and just a hug, a look.
Yes,
You know, we all try to come up with these brilliant dissertations that don't do anything for anybody. So
exactly.
just
Just, "I'm
being
sorry
present.
that happened to you," and I would ask before I would give a hug because it's been a real physical assault, right?
You're right. In
So
a
I would say,
situation such as that.
Are you
Yes.
okay if I hug you? And if
Yes.
not, could I just hold your hand for a minute?"
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
so
And that's
absolutely,
it.
it's okay to
Yeah.
say, "I'm sorry this happened to you." And it's always a good idea to say, "If I can ever do anything, call me
I'm here.
anytime, day or night," because the nights for me were the worst. And
Yes,
so
of
who
course.
would I call at night? I didn't call people at night. So
Can I ask you, did this happen in your parents' home?
It actually happened in a rental cottage that I had just moved into 2 weeks before. My first place, it was behind my grandmother's house. And so it actually traumatized her. When she found out what happened, she wanted a weapon, she wanted protection from the family. And the person got in because I did not know that the windows weren't had no latches on them. This person actually went in my grandmother's backyard, which was like a jungle with those big elephant leaves and all kinds of things, went in and then came in a window and into the house. So I think this is someone that knew the area or had been casing the area because it was an unusual way to enter. And I do, in the book, I do mention some things that people can do to help prevent things like that from happening, to
Yeah.
be real aware of your surroundings, be real aware of what's going on,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I really had no idea that there were absolutely no latches on the windows.
Yeah. I'm putting my my PD hat on now and saying that the timing of that seems rather curious to me,
Yes,
that you had only been there for 2 weeks
yes.
and someone maybe who had been doing, well, whatever, they'd never found the person. Um,
The phone had not even been hooked up, and this is
it
before
was,
cell phones.
oh, you see,
Yeah.
it's a whole different world.
Mhm.
I cannot appreciate you enough
Oh, thank you.
for, no, thank you is my point of sharing this story and kind of reliving it,
Mhm.
which I hope is cathartic for you
Yes,
as you generously share details of a situation that you wish never happened. We all wish it never happened to you and to anybody.
exactly.
And that you're so willing to put yourself out there for the benefit of other people.
I appreciate that you're going to be able to hopefully get the message out to more women
Yeah,
through your organization, and then they can spread the word, because victims, we just feel so alone when it happens, and sometimes for a long time after that.
understood, understood. I'm so sorry. And the whole point is you're not alone because the statistics that you quoted can take your
Absolutely.
breath away.
Yes,
It's not a rarity that it
exactly.
happens. And in today's day and age, the things that we hear on the news every day are having happened,
Yes.
and that we will never understand that. I guess it's the that human condition that some people live in, and I'm sorry, mental health is a big issue, but you can't blame
Yes,
every bad moment on his or her mental health. Um, you can't. And if it's the case, you got to say to the family and those people, then what are you doing to help this person? What are you doing to prevent this? What are you doing to help mitigate trauma for other people?
exactly.
Triumph. I love triumph and terror.
Exactly.
They're kind of juxtapositions there. Um, Great title.
Thank you.
Great title. One woman's journey through rape. If you're suffering from anything, to our listeners, and we all know someone, I think we all know someone who has been a victim, who's in a tough situation, and sometimes they don't talk about it.
Mhm.
Sometimes you just have to be caring enough to notice changes in their personalities. Does their way of communicating change? Do they make themselves less available? All the cues. We live in a very myopic world. If we all kind of take off, as I did, they're not rose colored, but if we take off our blue colored glasses and see the world in its true light, to say that we all need help,
Mhm.
we all can be help to others. And it's a matter of timing.
Mhm.
What side of the coin are you on in any given moment? And again, it doesn't have to be as traumatizing, as
Mhm.
terrorizing as what Debbie Harrison endured 45 years ago and now has made that such an important part of her life to help others navigate their journey one step at a time, one breath at a time. That's what it takes to find their own triumph, their own way to accept the new you. You said, you took some of the old and the new, and now that's who you are. And that's perfect. You are perfectly who you are right now, and so well positioned to help other people. Debbie, I thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I know I speak for a countless number of others who say thank you for the generosity of sharing your story, and we're sorry that it's your story to share. But
Thank you.
please, no, thank you, Debbie, and please Google Debbie. It's Debby Harrison, Harrison. The book, Triumph Over Terror, available on Amazon, on Kindle, or in a hard copy. Get it, read it, become a better person for yourself, and hopefully to be a better person when somebody else needs your help.
Yes.
Yeah. Huh. We never disappoint here on B.E.P Talks because we share realities,
Right.
our beliefs, our experiences, and our passions. And I invite you, the listeners, the viewers, to dare to tell your story, to be as brave as Debbie has been here today, and to know that you are in a position to be an asset to another human being at any given time. Get in touch with us. Go to beptalks.com. As we always say, and Debbie, I mean this so deeply for you on such a personal basis, may the best always be yet to come.
Thank you.
Thank you. And until we talk again, God bless everyone. Debbie, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye for now.